Family, what's good with you? It's your boy Milky Way J. Welcome back to another banger, and we got another One Piece theory reaction by Ohara. Shout out to him. This one's about Binks Sake, and it's a theory about Binks Sake being the song telling the history of the One Piece world. Now, if you know about the One Piece world, you know the poneglyphs. You go around deciphering them, and those supposedly tell you the history of the world. Ohara believes that Binks Sake, a song that is brought up, he'll explain more into it, but he believes that the song that's brought up, Binks Sake, is another form of telling the story of the world. And he makes some fire connections, I'm not gonna lie. When I first started this, I was like, I don't know about this one. He made some good connections, I can't lie to you. Spread love to the people that mean most of y'all. Like the video if you like the video. Comment down below, subscribe to the channel if y'all are new. I'll see y'all in there. Let's get to it. The secret code of Binks Sake.
Binks Sake, the oldest pirate song in One Piece, long rumored to hold some of Oda's biggest secrets, is actually the entire life story of Joy Boy, how he ate the Nika fruit, found and used the ancient weapons, became the first pirate, and ultimately was defeated in a massive battle that holds the secret to the entire story. At least I'm like 99% sure of that after accidentally cracking the secret code that Oda has hidden in this song.
And how'd you do
really
that,
all thanks to this one line right here. It's actually the 6th line of the entire song, and in Japanese it goes Don to icho uta o funade no uta. In English it has been translated,
I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt, Ohara. I'm gonna sit here and assume that you just like listen and study to how they said it. If you can read that and you were able to translate that off your own and like sing that fluently, salute to you. But I'm gonna just assume that you did the former.
as let's all sing out with a Don as the ship set sail. And
right.
Well, on the surface, at least on paper, it's pretty clear to me what it's referring to. Don is a traditional sound effect used to describe the sound of a drum beat, which we all now know connects directly to the drums of liberation and the sun god Nika. In fact, as I'll explain later on, the Don in the song is very likely referring to Joy Boy's Gear 5 heartbeat as he set sail to be the first pirate from the ancient kingdom. That's a pretty safe bet, also based on everything that we learned from Vegapunk during Egghead Island about.
And it's actually interesting because if Joy Boy already had Gear 5 unlocked when he first set sail to become a pirate, we have to assume like we haven't really seen the level of power yet that can be reached. And obviously that's safe to assume there's a lot more of One Piece to go. That's a crazy feat to think about. Just think about it.
Joy Boy and the Void Century. But this is where things get interesting, because when I translated the words a second time myself, I realized that this first version is not all that it could possibly mean. And the funny thing is, I actually stumbled across this detail when I was working with one of my team members on a completely different theory about Joy Boy's great 1,000-year plan, but this discovery completely changed my upload schedule, and we have to talk about this one first before we can get to that. And really, the only reason why I was looking at the song in the first place was because Binks Sake has long been used consistently throughout One Piece since its introduction in chapter 442, and always at key moments like Roger discovering Laugh Tale or the death of the Rumba Pirates. And of course, since the song literally name drops Laugh Tale with its very last phrase, well, people have all been kind of aware that this song probably holds a lot more secrets than we all originally thought. In other words, when we were researching and theorizing about Joy Boy's big 1,000-year plan, we knew that probably some of the secrets at least had to be hidden within Binks Sake as well. After all, it only makes sense that the oldest pirate song in One Piece would have something to do with, well, the oldest and first pirate, Joy Boy, as it was finally confirmed by Vegapunk in chapter 1114. But I would never have guessed that the song is literally the key to everything. You see, in very classic Oda fashion, the entire lyrics are full of double meanings, and much like the poneglyphs, Binks Sake may reveal the true history of the world as well. And it all starts with this one word, which I just kind of randomly just happened to check with my online Japanese dictionary. You see, Lord Icho usually is meant to be with one big dawn, but it can actually also be read, as you can see right here, as a traditional Japanese measurement in which 1 cho actually equals 109 meters. Which would then actually change this line of the song to something like, with the sound of a drum, 109 meters, the song of the ship leaving. And we'll get back to that second part, but first I looked at that number in my translator and went, that's cool though. Nothing really measures out to a little over 100 meters in the manga. I mean, kind of wonder how often that phrase appears in the entire song, and well, it appears exactly one more time, which immediately kind of set off my theory alarm sense, because Vegapunk just literally said in chapter 1115 very recently that the sea level had risen by 200 meters and destroyed the ancient civilizations of the Void Century. But notably, he did not say that it all happened at once. 200 meters is a very specific number, so could it actually be that the sea levels rose twice? Yeah, that's right. I believe that it wasn't just one massive flood that ended the old world, but two. Listen to this. Here's what we know. Uranus, with only a small fragment stolen from the artificially created mother flame from Vegapunk, caused the sea level to rise exactly 1 meter. And I think that calling attention to that very specific detail was a hint towards the full powerful potential of a fully used mother flame. At full power, I do believe that a single ancient weapon can actually flood the world up to 100 meters in one go, and this song, I think, does prove exactly that. Okay, but I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here, because first of all, with this kind of random funny discovery of the 100 meter thing happening twice, both times connected to the drum beat, I did feel like we cracked the surface of something interesting here with that specific.
Hey, let me know down in the comments below, does One Piece manga be dropping in color? Because I read it on the Shonen Jump app and it's just black and white. Or is this their team coloring it in? Because I need to know, because there's some visual things that I need to see in color. I cannot wait to get animated in the manga. But let me know down in the comments below if you are into
measurement. And so me and my team really went into the rest of the entire song to find anything else connected to this drum beat, ship sailing, and the 100 meter thread that we have started to unravel here. And wouldn't you know that the other second time that this lyrical line is used in the song has another super interesting double meaning as well. Because the second time it's used, it says Don to icho uta o unaba no uta, which translates in the official to let's all sing with the dawn, the song of the waves. Now, all you eagle-eyed film Red fans may see what I saw here, but for those of you who don't quite know what I'm talking about, let me fill you in. As you might know, the word uta in Japanese means to sing or a song, and utao means let's sing. It's kind of like cheering everyone on. But also, it's literally the name of Shanks' daughter and the name of her sing-sing fruit as well, the uta uta no mi, which means that we've got a song of the seas and a song of the ship. So an interesting detail is that what's translated in the original English here as waves is actually the song of the deep ocean. That's a much more literal translation. But anyways, after those two songs each, the song of the ship and the song of the deep ocean, a sea level rise of 109 meters might have happened. Now, that in itself is a really interesting point. A song that is raising the sea. There was something in here, and I just couldn't quite fully connect them in a meaningful way until I realized that the secret here was in the other part of these lyrics. Because you see, the golden thread that ties all of this together isn't even the sea rising or the drum beats, it's the song. What do I mean by that? Well, there is a third mention of the word uta or song in Binks Sake in the line that reads Soranya wa okaku tori no uta. This is translated to the birds sing as they draw circles in the sky.
I'm silent because I'm locked in, really trying to follow.
We have the song of the deep ocean under the sea, and we have the song of the ship setting sail on that sea. You see what I'm getting at here? Because once I saw that pattern and number, it was all kind of clear to me that the songs are literally the ancient weapons. The song of Uranus in the sky, Poseidon and the ocean, and the ancient ship Pluton on the ocean. Literally.
That right there, Ohara, that right there just made this a lot more interesting. When you just made that connection right there, okay, I'm with you.
Every time a song is mentioned in Binks Sake, it's connected to the domain of an ancient weapon. Giant weapons that we now know did raise the sea level because we, for one, just watched Emu do it with the attack on Lulusia Kingdom, but also Vegapunk just warned us about the ancient weapons having caused floods in the most recent chapter.
He literally
and
just
once I
told us.
realized the connection here and what we might have discovered, we of course had to fact check the language stuff because I do speak Japanese, but I still wanted to ask.
Shout out to you. Hey, he speaks Japanese. And I'm sorry, early in the video, I downplayed you. I might have disrespected you with my take, but I did say, if this is true, I salute you. You confirmed it for me. I'm gonna take your word for it right here. Shout out to you.
Some native speakers I know, some academic resources, and of course our good pal the internet, and we put all of our resources into figuring out why Binks Sake might be talking about the great floods and the ancient weapons to begin with. And for that, specific shout out to Peyton from my team, who actually stayed up until 4 in the morning with me to actually try and work through all this. One Piece theorists everywhere do salute you, my boy. That was a crazy session.
I'm not even a theorist, but I'm a theory enthusiast.
Hours to look at the rest of the lyrics, we tried and start to puzzle together the story that this song is actually trying to tell us. And let's, for this part, actually take it from the very first verse of the story. The song starts with going to deliver Binks Sake, following the sea breeze, riding on the waves far across the salty depths, the merry evening sun, the birds sing as they draw circles in the sky. Sounds kind of harmless, casual even, like kind of a fun pirate song, but just like the singing of the sky, the other lines here also have a bunch of hidden double meanings when translated closer to the actual Japanese. In my personal opinion, a very classic Oda move, as we see time and time again with characters, birthdays, location names, and numbers, and pretty much everything in this entire series which carries double meanings and symbolism. And so with that in mind, when we take a literal approach to the translation, it then translates much more closely as the sea breeze, having the freedom to do what you want, and conquering the waves. Then, on the other side of the tides, the evening sun makes some noise, or technically is being loud. And once I had retranslated that.
Are you following? Listen to what he's saying. The evening sun makes some noise. The Nika fruit is the fruit of the sun god, right? His heartbeat are the drums of liberation, conquering the waves. Luffy wants to be the king of the pirates. Hold on. Stay with him. Come on.
Conquering the waves. Then, on the other side of the tides, the evening sun makes some noise, or technically is being loud. And once I had retranslated that line literally, I realized that we had struck some gold here, because there is now no going back. Binks Sake is the tale of Joy Boy and his tragic journey to destroy the world. Yeah, that's right. This song is actually a really dark and twisted comedy full of sorrow, insanity, and tragic loss. Binks Sake is a tale of a young Joy Boy and someone he probably shared sake with. And you see Joy Boy as a young man, kind of like Luffy, desires the freedom to do what he wants, conquering the waves and feeling the breeze of the ocean on his face. Now, he's stuck in the ancient kingdom and craves to be liberated. But on one faithful day, he hears the sun making a loud noise, but not the literal sun. No. He, of course, hears the call of the sun god, his drumbeat drawing him towards a very special fruit. Again,
but I feel like I was still making a parallel,
and once he eats it, his drum starts beating loudly. And as he learns to master the powers of the Nika fruit, his heart then also awakens something huge that has been lying dormant for many years, even before the Void Century, the ancient weapon Uranus. Okay, let's break some of that down. Here's what we know. For starters, it's confirmed now out that the drums of liberation can activate ancient technology. That's basically the entire point of the ancient giant on Egghead Island. It keeps reacting to Luffy's transformation into Nika and his heartbeat, and seems to indicate that the Mother Flame isn't the only thing that can activate ancient technology. Or at the very least, or
Ja, me and you was having this conversation. I'm not even finna get into it because it was a me and you conversation, but I was bringing this up and you was saying you don't know. And you recommended this video to me, is what's even crazier.
Maybe even more likely that maybe
but
the
it's 14
original
hours. I can see how you might
flame
have
that
forgotten.
Vegapunk is trying to emulate is actually connected directly to Nika's powers. I mean, let's be honest, the sun is the biggest eternal flame out there, and Luffy is the literal sun god. Now, if the ancient weapons actually predate Joy Boy and the ancient kingdom and are connected to the sun god Nika instead, then these things and this technology is actually even more ancient than we all could have ever imagined. And who knows, maybe Nika and his civilization used them originally to terraform the Earth at some point, but that's a theory for a whole nother video. Regardless of that, for now, we also know that Joy Boy isn't Nika, like as in the same person, as Vegapunk also confirms for us in chapter 1114. This all points to Joy Boy confirms for us in chapter 1114. This all points to Vegapunk also know that Joy Boy isn't Nika, like as in the same person, as Vegapunk also confirms for us in chapter 1114. This all points to Joy Boy awakening the ancient weapons himself and potentially leaving Uranus within the ancient kingdom where he might have discovered it. Which might sound a little bit weird at first, but would actually very nicely explain why Uranus is the only of the ancient weapons that Emu and the world government have access to, but we'll actually get into that later as we dissect more of the song. And since we've now covered the
Uranus is the sun, ancient weapon. Pluton is the ship one that the Leia, Galila, however you say it, giants built. That's Pluton. And Poseidon is down with the Fishman, right?
First verse a bunch, let's keep diving into the next part. It reads, "Farewell to the harbor, to my old hometown. Let's all sing out with a dawn. A ship set sail, waves of gold and silver dissolve to salty spray as we all set sail to the ends of the sea." Again, sounds kind of harmless and even fun, but as I've already explained, there is a lot of double meaning here. The dawn, the song of the ship setting sail, and as you probably guessed, there are even more phrases in here that have actual double meanings. Let's start with the line about waves of gold and silver, because in Japanese it literally reads Kimpa Gimpa mo shibuki ni kaete. Kimpa Gimpa actually reads sparkling waves either in the moonlight or in the sunlight, which is actually a nice hint and potential tease at the possible shift away from a peaceful tide thanks to the sun gods. Now, shibuki actually is often translated as spree, but it can also be read as an impact and splash of something into the water. And while I initially thought that the waves of gold and silver might have been referring to treasure, I mean, the One Piece is supposed to be some sort of treasure as well, as we recently learned Joy Boy was the first pirate, I now actually think that this might be much more literal. In fact, I believe that this line could actually talk about the destruction brought by awakening the next ancient weapon, Pluton. And that's actually because of the other line, Oretacha yukuzo umi no kagiri. Now, normally that reads as sailing to the end of the ocean. So when I first kind of read it, I thought, oh, easy, sailing to the end of the Grand Line, finding Laugh-Tale, the literal ends of the sea, silver, gold, you know, the One Piece. But as I told you, I went deep on the song, like extra deep, like scanning every single Japanese word and checking for deeper meanings and hidden meanings. And as it turns out, the verb yuku, which usually means to go, actually can also mean taking out injustice by using force, which is both an insane thing to write in a song, but also the literal main theme of the entire story of One Piece. I mean, Oda is pretty clear on taking out oppressive military regimes and dictators and liberating the world and its people being Luffy's entire thing, so what if it was the exact same thing for Joy Boy as well? And so here's what I think that this verse could actually be saying. After awakening the Nika fruit and Uranus, Joy Boy for the first time in his life finally has the chance to set sail onto the ocean thanks to awakening his devil fruit and awakening Uranus. Maybe it's because it distracted the ancient kingdom and let him leave, or possibly literally opened a path for him to do so because the ancient kingdom wants him to find and awaken the remaining remaining ancient weapons as well. Regardless of the details, he then leaves, saying farewell to his harbor, his hometown, and he then goes on to set sail with a dawn. And I believe that, as we again talked about earlier, this could be him finding and awakening Pluton, the giant ancient weapon warship. But this time, instead of simply activating it as with Uranus, Joy Boy actually uses it. Either by accident or fully on purpose, he uses his full sun god power force and uses Pluton to rain down fire and destruction upon injustice around the world. Which basically means that he's sailing around and liberating and freeing people, much like probably Nika did before him and very much like Luffy's
doing now.
But the catch here is that because he used the ancient weapon at full power, he ends up flooding the world, raising the sea 100 meters and changing the landscape of the planet forever. And I hope you can see that things are really starting to click here a little bit. And the next verse just
that's how Fishman Island was made.
Going to deliver Binks Sake. We're pirates sailing through the sea.
No,
waves
I'm
are
getting
our
ahead of
pillows,
myself.
the ship
I'm mixing
our roost,
things up too
flying
much.
the proud skull on our flags and on our sails. Now, even on the surface level, this one's pretty clear. It's talking about how Joy Boy is the very first pirate, something that once again we now know from Vegapunk as a confirmed fact, and how he sails the seas. As the song explains to us on its surface level, he creates or adopts a Jolly Roger, the skull on his flag, and then he journeys the Grand Line. But again, this is of course far from the important lines in this verse. Let's address the elephant in the room. And no, I am not talking about Zanisha actually, though I guess maybe I should address Zanisha because this whole verse is about Joy Boy sailing the newly raised ocean with his crew. No, we actually have to talk about the reoccurring line of this entire song, Binks Sake. Now, whether what I'm saying so far is correct or not, or whether the song has a different meaning, one thing I think we can all agree on. Binks Sake is clearly incredibly important as a concept, appearing 4 times total in the song and being the name of the song as well. Now, we do know for a fact that sake in One Piece is a really important symbol of shared unity and brotherhood and also trust. Shanks, Luffy, Kaido, Roger, Whitebeard, Ace, Sabo, they all show us time and time again that this is how they express their trust and value of the other person. In other words, it's clear that in the world of One Piece, boozing up with the bros is the ultimate sign of love and value and friendship, which means that for Joy Boy to share Binks Sake, he either is talking to one person or sailing around the oceans and making eternal bonds with a bunch of people. By the way, I'm pretty convinced that it's a line that clearly represents either one partner or several that Joy Boy has. For example, it's a very common theory that if there is a sun god, then there's probably also a moon god. And I think that whoever Joy Boy is sharing his sake with here, whether it's someone called Binks, Emu, Lily, or even someone else that we don't know about yet, they might have that moon god fruit and it's going to cause a lot of problems. Why do I say that? Well, that's because I'm pretty sure at this point that they decided to try and use Uranus in order to destroy Joy Boy. Why would they want to do that? Well, consider the fact that Joy Boy might have just accidentally or on purpose flooded the world by 100 meters and as a result might have actually been expelled from the ancient kingdom and thus not became just a regular traveler on the oceans, but the very first pirate, a criminal, an outlaw who now needs to live on his ship because he doesn't have a home anymore. You know, the entire "the waves are my pillow, the roost is my ship" and so on and so forth. Like, that guy now lives on his ship. He's now a criminal basically and banished from his country. But then we get even more evidence for this happening because the next verse in the song goes a little something like this. Now comes a storm through the far off sky. Now the waves are dancing, beat upon the drums. If you lose your nerve, this breath could be your last, but if you just hold on, the morning sun will rise. So our first task here was to really try and break down what the storm in question here really could be. And as I just said, I still believe that it's someone else now using Uranus. If you pay attention to what happens in chapter 1060 before the island of Lulusia is destroyed, a great storm seems to start forming above above the island. In fact, the anime even goes so far as highlighting the sky going black as the weapon starts closing in. And remember, that might be at only 1% of its actual power if my math about the 100 meters is actually true, so imagine it at even greater strength. We know that the Mother Flame is something that Vegapunk has wanted to recreate, meaning that the original Ancient Kingdom had some form of true infinite energy that could power these things. You know, things like this picture from NL's cover story that hints at exactly that, showing what could be the original Mother Flame among the Sky People on the moon. But regardless, Vegapunk is the one who locks this point really down when he first brings up the Mother Flame in the story. Now, as you remember, I said earlier, it might be that Joy Boy actually left Uranus behind in his homeland, the Ancient Kingdom, as it was the first weapon he awakened while he was there. And if they have the weapon and decided to use it, possibly against Joy Boy and his ancient weapons to stop him from doing more bad stuff, then that would explain why a far-off storm would be coming, and why the drums start beating, since he'd now have to start transforming into his Nika form and use his weapons to defend himself. And it's actually this next part where we really get into the tragic side of the story, because if the 100-meter flood from earlier wasn't already sad enough for you and all that was lost in it, the line about losing your nerve in Japanese is actually okubyo kaze ni fukareria saigo, and the literal translation reads as, if you let yourself be intimidated by the storm, it will be the end. Okubyo means cowardice, a wind of cowardice. If it blows on you, that will be the end. And so if we look at that literal translation and then the following line about holding on until the morning sun will rise again, well, we get a really sad story about the start of an epic battle for the entire world. You see, Joy Boy here might now have a choice to make when facing off against Uranus. He can either use another one of his ancient weapons and risk flooding even more of the world as has happened before, or do nothing and just let Uranus destroy him and everything he has built. You know, because Joy Boy probably still went around the world reuniting and protecting a bunch of races that later were loyal to him, which means Joy Boy now has a real dilemma in front of him and may even lean towards being a coward by letting Uranus and its user, whoever that may be, destroy it all. But he also knows that everything in this world is a cycle, and even if he as the sun god will fail here and fall, and the moon god with Uranus should rise in the future, at some point, someday, the morning sun will dawn again, which means there will be another Joy Boy, another Nika. So he makes the choice to fight back against the injustice in front of him. And the next verse is the climatic battle I was just talking about. Going to deliver Binks Sake, once again, today and tomorrow, our dreams through the night, waving our goodbyes, we'll never meet again, but don't look so down, as for tomorrow night, the moon will also rise. And I hope you can see why it's this section in particular that to me really solidified the idea of the moon god versus the sun god, and that Binks Sake is the shared connection between Joy Boy and that other person. Obviously, once again, the reoccurring Binks Sake line shows up here, and I do think that it's kind of meant to symbolize the two warring brothers facing off against each other. It represents sunset, the time where Joy Boy will have to say goodbye to his brother until the next dawn, but his will shall exist on through the long night, which of course potentially the dreams through the night could be a symbol for the will of D being passed down.
That's a good point. The one thing I'm confused about is we've never seen people who share sake completely go to war like that. And the one thing we know about this story is that a lot of stuff recurs, like history really repeats itself in very obvious ways.
Potentially, the dreams through the night could be a symbol for the will of D being passed down during the era of the moon gods. Now, after this line, we might see the Brotherhood shine through the cracks a little bit. Even with the ancient weapons fighting on the line, war happening, and death swiftly approaching, Joy Boy is still focused on his brother's smile. He wants to bring joy and possibly even give him some sort of hope or assurance. Despite this battle being the last time that they will see each other alive, someday his reincarnation will return. Obviously, potentially referring to Luffy here, of course. Now, honestly, don't really know for certain if it's comfort here or if he's actually trying to be a little bit spiteful and saying, I'll come back for you and get you no matter what, to whomever he's fighting here. But based on the tone and the rest of the song, it does seem to me that this moon god-like figure, who I personally would like to believe is Imu, is someone that Joy Boy really used to care about.
That makes the most sense, though.
If it is Imu who was kind of this brotherly figure to Joy Boy, it could explain explain why he still got the giant straw hat in Marijua and hasn't immediately killed Luffy. His brother, whether it be literal or figuratively, has returned as he once promised. And of course, the line about the moon here would kind of symbolize the era of the moon god now starting after the sun has set, after Joy Boy is gone. And then of course we have the last verse of the song, going to deliver Binks Sake. Let's all sing it with a dawn, a song of the ocean. Doesn't matter who you are, someday you'll just be bones, never ending, ever wondering, our funny traveling tale. Alright, step one is obvious I think at this point. Binks Sake is being delivered once again, potentially meaning that the two brothers meet now for the very last time, but this time it's a song of waves. That means it isn't Uranus or Pluton, but Poseidon that is being used here, which actually would make a lot of sense since Joy Boy did make some sort of promise that he could never keep to the fishmen. Now for the longest time we've all kind of always assumed that it was a promise to bring them back to the surface with the Noah, and he failed to do so, but what if it was actually an apology to a broken, unfulfilled promise? An apology for breaking his promise and actually using the power of Poseidon to try and stop Uranus, an event that would surely have caused the survivors to look at the fisherman race with a lot of disgust and fear. He may also be apologizing for what was going to happen to them because of his actions, knowing that his successor would one day make it up to them somehow. Now on top of this, the Japanese here is a little bit weird because the kanji used for the ocean is umi, but it actually is being sung as unaba, which is actually kind of weird here and is used in the line Don to icho uta o unaba no uta, and it's actually a shortened version of the word unabara, which actually means the deep sea, something that may hint that this line is about the fishmen who live in the deep sea, and specifically of course Poseidon, who rules over the sea kings. In other words, the big clash between the two brothers has now happened, and once again, using another ancient weapon, Joy Boy has flooded the world by yet another 100 meters. Now, the next line about everyone becoming bones one day can be taken in a few different ways here. It could mean that everyone's gonna die in this catastrophic flood happening, despite them being good or bad, but it could also be read as a more targeted line in Japanese, translating to, no matter who you are, we will all be bones, which seems like a line meant for someone directly, almost like a sad and hollow threat of their inevitable death. I'm honestly not 100% sure on that one. As for the final lines of the song as well, they do seem to hint at something even bigger, especially when you connect them to the previous line, Hatenashi, atenashi, waraibanashi. It's the Japanese version of the last line here, and the word atenashi has the double meaning of both being aimless but also hopeless, which would actually translate the last line to something more akin to never-ending, aimless slash hopeless, our funny traveling tale slash laugh tale, which is not only the best alt-punk band song title ever, I think, but also a really scary indication of what Joy Boy thinks the world of One Piece is actually like. You see, if you combine these last two weird lines together, it seems to read that no matter who you are, this is how the world is just going to be. It's going to end in death, and it's a never-ending, aimless, and hopeless laughing story all the way around. So could it be that Joy Boy in the end uncovered the truth behind this never-ending cycle of the sun and the moon and realizes that even if he tries to break through it, it's always going to end in sadness and death and tragedy? Is that the reason why Rayleigh became a drunk and is right now drinking himself into a delirium during Vegapunk's speech, and Roger completely seemed to flip his switch after discovering the One Piece? It would also explain why Odin immediately went back to Wano and wanted to open the borders and release Pluton. The line, "he laughed," may actually be a very tragic realization and coping. The Roger pirates all laughed because, well, they can't do anything. The world is bleak and full of sorrow, and they all just accepted it, and even if they try to fight it, it'll just happen again and again. Which again would also give a lot of weight to Rayleigh's word to the Straw Hats. He said that the Straw Hats might in the end come to a different conclusion than Joy Boy and Roger's crew did after realizing the truth. Maybe they can actually end up breaking this sad, hopeless cycle of the sun and the moon and this never-ending tragedy, ultimately liberating the One Piece world from fate itself.
Okay.
Now, before we go any further here, one, I hope this blew your mind a little bit, but secondly, obviously this theory isn't 100% airtight just yet, and that is where you come in. The true meaning of Binks Sake and some other of these lines right here clearly have a deeper and very important meaning. Me and my team were really thinking about this, and we do believe that this is the true story of Joy Boy and the Void Century, and we'd love to hear your ideas on what specific different lines here could actually mean with this new perspective for you, hopefully. So I really invite any of you out there who has an idea to leave their thoughts in the comments, and maybe with a little bit more information together, we can truly crack the true history of the One Piece world wide open before Oda even can reveal it to us. But other than that, as promised earlier, there's also another really cool and big theory on its way.
Okay. He's done with that. I'm gonna say this. He made some real good points. At first, when the video started, I was following the whole time, but I was not convinced that Binks Sake could potentially be the story of the history, right? He made some good points in there. I'm not gonna lie to you. He made some good points that made it believable. I'm not gonna say I'm convinced. Obviously, he said there's still some loose ends, and he doesn't have it all the way 100% theorized, but he believes it, and he made it sound good. Let me know what y'all think in the comments below. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe to the channel if y'all are new. With that being said, I'm gonna just catch y'all on the next theory video, anything we drop it. Stay tuned. I'll catch y'all on the next one. It's Milky Way J, and I'm out. Y'all be safe.